Okay, I thought I'd give you a little map scenario of a river valley and its tributaries and how you would basically trace out where the golds came from and which direction. As you can see, we got the north, south, east, west. These orange lines here are the last glacier flow that traveled in a northerly direction across this valley. And here we have two main tributaries junctioning down in here. So basically, as you're working your way up from the bottom of this valley, you would find flower golds, and as you're working up, you would start finding flatter warren golds. And basically, in this scenario, as you're coming up into this junction, the gold got a little bit less rounded off, a little bit more coarse. And you'd have to sample both of these tributaries coming in here, and you would notice in this scenario that both tributaries are carrying gold. So basically you have to pick one side to sample first. So in this scenario we'll go up the easterly side, and as you were working your way up, you'd start noticing that the golds got heavier and they were getting rougher, and then you're starting to find quartz samples. So you'd keep working your way up the river, and you'd have to keep track and sample all side tributaries and what you find and what you don't find. In this scenario, like say you have glacier flows traveling in a northerly direction, the river here is coming down in a westerly direction. So these side tributaries here coming from the south to the north are pretty much barren of golds. And as you're going up, you're noticing the northerly side of this valley, all the tributaries were carrying traces of golds or golds. And as you're going farther up east, you'd start noticing the ore samples or the quartz samples were getting a little bit larger, carrying free visible golds in some scenarios. But yeah, so you'd be traveling up and you'd basically come to an area where the quartz samples stop. Doesn't mean you would stop in the river. You keep going until you don't find golds, then you backtrack. So in this scenario we have the quartz ore stopping here with barren channels over here. As you're going up the river, you're noticing you're still finding coarse nuggety material, but then all of a sudden this southerly to northerly tributary was carrying golds, coarse golds with some quartz attached to it, which with the river traveling down here in a westerly direction wouldn't make sense for this lodge. So you gotta remember, a lot of this valleys and stuff were basically buried, some of them hundreds of feet in glacier debris. So you got to keep in mind that the bedrock is, pretty much buried and hidden in a lot of valleys. So a guy has to kind of put everything he found into a map, a visual map, a written map, whatever you'd like to, whatever you prefer to do. But yeah, in this map scenario here we have, basically kind of leads you to believe that this ore body continues across the river, basically in a northeasterly direction, north to south, but more north to east, because like I say, these tributaries would be barren. You have golds up here. So basically you have the north to east direction, and underneath here small bits of gold over time, and that have come out into this side channel and left you little traces. So basically it would lead you to believe the ore body is running north to east. So then you go back down through the valley and you have to come up this section of the river because you've traced golds up here. So then you would come up, you start sampling and sampling. You notice that basically the easterly direction side channels coming in are carrying golds, and as you're working up, you're still finding flat golds, worn golds, flower golds, and some nuggety material, some coarse, but no quartzes. So you keep working your way up, and in this scenario, you'd start noticing the farther you're working up, the smaller the gold started to get. So basically, as you got up into this area, you're basically only finding flower golds. So then you kind of have to lean back here and ask yourself the question why this scenario is happening. Because generally, as you go up a river, the golds get heavier, but in this scenario, it's going backwards. So again, this would lead you to believe that this golds has basically came from this deposit here. When the glacier come across, it's laid golds and the ore across this valley, and the side tributaries are bringing it down this mountain and then carrying it down to this river to the junction. Because it would be obviously the scenario in this map I've made. So little trick, things to keep in mind. As you go up one river, why would the gold get smaller? And you go up the other side, it gets heavier. So basically, it's leading you to believe the ore body has traveled across this valley like this in the bedrock zone, and then with the glacier flows, it's laid golds across this side of the mountain, and the side tributaries have brought it down into this tributary. So lots of little things to keep in mind.